Alrighty. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone watching us live and those who are watching the replay. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Tabitha Barber. I'm the program director at Indy Pride. I'm so happy to have today with us Kit Malone, educator and advocate at the ACLU Indiana, and Rima Shahid, executive director at Women4Change. Good afternoon. How are you both doing?
Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, Tabitha. Thanks for having us. Super excited to talk about voting.
Yes. So for your lunch break today, or if you're taking a break from your day-to-day activities, we're going to be talking about voting rights. With the voter registration deadline quickly approaching on Monday, October 5th in Indiana, we want to make sure that everyone in our community and all of our allies are registered to vote for the upcoming general election. So we're going to start off quickly by doing some intros. Kit, I'm going to ask you to go first, and then Rima.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again. My name is Kit Malone. I use she, hers pronouns. I am an advocate and an educator here at the ACLU of Indiana. The ACLU is an organization that defends civil rights in the courts and on the streets and in our legislature of all kinds. My main work here is the LGBTQ Rights Project. And doing a lot of work advocating for LGBTQ people throughout the state.
Wonderful, wonderful. Rima?
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me, and thank you to Indy Pride and ACLU of Indiana for teaming up with us on the event. My name is Rima Shahid, and I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the executive director of Women4Change. Women4Change is a nonpartisan grassroots organization, and our mission is to equip and mobilize women to create positive change here in Indiana. We really believe by uplifting women, we uplift the entire community, because as we know, you're not just affecting that one person, but they take everyone with them. And so that's why it's really important for us, and days and weeks leading up to the election are getting close, and we're really excited to be here today. So thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. So glad to have you both. I want to say hello and welcome to everyone joining on. I see we have a few more folks joining on. Sound off in the comment box. Hello, how are you doing today? How's your day going? What are you eating for lunch over this lunch hour conversation? I just want to let everyone know that we're going to discuss three major topics in our conversation today. The first is who can vote. There are a lot of misconceptions around who can vote in our state and in our country. The second is how do I vote? And then the third, we're going to just sort of wrap up general misconceptions about voting in Indiana. And so I want to encourage everyone watching to please use the comment box on Facebook and YouTube to let us know your questions. After our conversation today, we will come back and answer questions. So let's go ahead and get started. So my first question for you, Kit and Rima, who can vote? Just sort of talking who can vote in the upcoming general election. And we'll start with Rima and then go over to Kit.
Yeah, so just very broadly, all United States citizens age 18 and older are eligible or can be eligible to vote. You also have to be a resident in a particular precinct 30 days before the election. That's really, really important to know. Something I want to share is a statistic that I read this week that as far as voter registration between 18 and 19-year-olds, so that would be like your new young voter, Indiana is actually dead last in the nation. And so we have a few more days to go. If you are watching, have friends, family, colleagues, people that you're mentoring, or maybe even your own mentors, please encourage them to do that. Nobody wants to be dead last in the entire nation. So that's really, really important. But to be very, very honest, Tabitha, I've learned a lot about who can vote in Indiana from my friends at the ACLU. And so I think that Kit would be better equipped to answer that question.
Yeah, love to hear from Kit. Go ahead.
Rima, I think that was an excellent summary. So you've obviously been paying attention to our materials. Absolutely, you have to be 30. You have to be 18 years of age by the time of the next general, municipal, or special election. There's a lot of misconceptions. Rima really summarized really accurately like who can vote, but there's sort of a lot of misconceptions about who can't vote or how voting happens. And that's another thing we're really interested in clearing up here at the ACLU. One of the biggest ones is if you've been previously incarcerated. A lot of people believe that in Indiana you lose the right to vote if you have been previously incarcerated or if you have a felony record. That's simply not the case. If you are not serving time, if you're not currently in prison, you can actually cast that vote. And our Yes You Can Vote campaign, which you can find on our website, is also devoted to sort of clearing that myth up, as well as a number of other myths that affect people's ability to get out and exercise those rights. Our campaign talks about trans people who, various voter ID issues can be very confusing for trans people to navigate. And of course, fears of being intimidated at the polls, especially for trans people who may live in rural areas, giving over that ID can be pretty scary. So we talk about that. And talk about that, that voter registration gap that we have in Indiana. It's important for students to know that if you are 17, but will be 18 by the time you cast that vote, you can go ahead and register to vote. You don't actually have to wait till you're 18 to register to vote. As long as you're going to be able to vote on that election, go ahead, and you still have a few days to get that done. We also talk about recently naturalized citizens who may fear all sorts of may have all sorts of concerns considering the way our leaders are talking about immigrant populations. It's important to know that you can't be targeted. Your family members and friends can't be targeted for exercising your right to vote and for registering to vote. And also folks with disabilities. You have the right to vote too. You get to vote. And you have the right specifically to have someone assist you at the polls. If you require assistance of any kind, you can bring someone to help you. And polling places have to be accessible. They're required to provide you an accessible means to vote. So that's sort of the summary.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing and all of that great information. I just want to quickly sing, you all's praises at Women4Change in the ACLU Indiana. We have been working just about all year on a Get Out the Vote plan, and you all have been excellent partners in helping us to reach the LGBTQ plus community in Central Indiana. So I just want to thank you for that and for your time today. I want to welcome everyone who is tuning in, who has just tuned in. We're talking about voting and knowing your rights and getting prepared for the upcoming general election. And so I want to encourage everyone to please use the comment box to let us know what questions you have, or even say a quick hello. We want to shout some people out today during our conversation. I think this is a good time to move on to how do I vote? Again, we have the crucial deadline approaching on Monday, October 5th, voter registration deadline for Indiana. Let's start with voter registration. How does one register to vote? Kit, you mentioned we have a couple of days left. Do you want to go ahead and start with this question?
The easiest way to get registered is to do it online. It's quite simple, only takes a minute or two. You can go right now today at this very second to indianavoters.com, and you can click in through that website, register yourself to vote, or check to make sure that you are in fact registered. Even if you think that you're already registered, it is very important that you check. We've had incidents where people who thought they were registered found that they had been removed from the voter polls. Additionally, trans people, if you think that you were registered but have recently changed your name, that's not always automatic. So you might want to go and double check that you're registered under the name that appears on your current state issued ID that you'll be using when you actually vote. So that's the easiest way to get through the registry. There's also lots of folks out there in the community registering people to vote. And in fact, citizens can do that. There's a form that the state and the federal government as well provides that you can actually use. You can print out and go and register your friends and turn those things in. So like registering people to vote is one way you can do citizen activism.
Wonderful, wonderful. Rima, you want to add anything too?
it's always hard to go after Kit because she mentions all the points and goes over them. That's why I love learning from Kit. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. Even if you think that you're registered, go ahead and double check. I cannot tell you how many times people have approached us at a variety of different venues, whether being in person back in the day or now virtually, that thought they were registered but actually weren't. It takes a couple minutes, so don't scroll on Instagram, get on to the Indiana Voters website. You can also go to Women4Change Indiana. It's the number 4changeindiana.org. You can check your registration, but there's also a number of questions, frequently asked questions regarding voting and registration that you'll find the answers to below. I always find it hard to navigate, and we're finding some of the answers. And so what we've tried to do is bring a concise place to answer some of those questions for you that we had on our minds. And so I definitely encourage you, it takes 5 minutes. Don't scroll and check your voter registration, and check that of your friends and family, because this is so important that you do that. Again, for 18 and 19-year-olds, for those new voters, dead last in the nation. As Women4Change, and looking at it from our perspective, women represent about 51 to 52% of Indiana's population, and by definition, we are the largest voting bloc. Recognize that power, and that power you can really own once you go to the polls and make your voice heard.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you, Rima. Yeah.
So you heard it here. Pro tip: even if you think you are registered to vote, check the voter portal. Please go ahead and sound off in the comment box if you are registered to vote and you've checked using the voter portal. Let everyone know how easy it is to go ahead and check to see that you are registered, or that you can quickly register online. So thank you both for that. I want to remind those watching that please comment with your questions. Let us know what you need to know, how we can support you on your voter journey, your voter plan to vote this election season. I want to welcome those who have joined our live stream. I'm talking with Rima at Women4Change and Kit at the ACLU Indiana. And so, of course, as I mentioned before, you two have been just so phenomenal to work with this past season, getting out the vote and encouraging our community to vote. Thank you so much for working with Indy Pride. And I know that both of your organizations are working on great initiatives to empower and encourage people to participate in the general election. And so, Kit, you mentioned a little bit about outreach to those who have been previously incarcerated. You also mentioned the Transform the Polls. Could you share with us a little bit more about both of those campaigns? How can people who are watching support those and get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So our Yes You Can Vote campaign that I mentioned before is focusing on numerous target groups, really centering people who've experienced incarceration. You may have seen our ads on television or our billboards around the city. One thing you can do is share that on social media. And of course, we also have in the office of the ACLU numerous distributable cards in both Spanish and English that if you represent an organization or a church group or a club, feel free to reach out to us at the ACLU, and we can get you that information if you have an event coming up, or if you are sending out mailers. We're really happy to do that. And you asked about Transform the Polls. That's something I'm really proud of. We've been doing that for 3 years now. And normally, when we aren't in these unprecedented times, Transform the Polls is an in-person voting event for trans people. Around the state, cities get together, working with our advocates that we have relationships with here at the ACLU, trans people who want to assist in helping people exercise their right to vote. And we stress the importance for trans people of using early voting as a way to have safety in numbers at places that might seem unfriendly to them. So getting groups of people together, led by folks who have a relationship with the ACLU, who know those voting rights and could guide people through. And those, all of our trans leaders were so grateful for their leadership on that. This year, it's a little different because we don't want to encourage people to gather in groups. We're trying to discourage that, like everyone, I think, right now, so much. So instead, we're taking to the internet. And with the cooperation of advocates in Muncie and South Bend and in Bloomington and in Evansville, we have collected a whole crew of folks who are going to be sharing stories of voting as a trans person, whether that's, voting for the first time with a corrected ID as your own self, or just how it felt the first time that they vote. One of the things that is hard this year is that in previous years, we've always had several people who had never voted at all before because of their fears, and who took advantage of having that opportunity to vote in a group, and who became lifelong voters because of that. And who I hear election after election, like, I vote now because of this. So I think that's really important. And so we're going to be lifting up those stories on social media. That'll be October the 23rd. Watch the ACLU of Indiana's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram accounts. We also have a blog that we'll be releasing tomorrow with stories of some trans voters, including several trans leaders in the state who I'm really proud to see, representing so well civic engagement and the importance of civic engagement. So yeah, that's a little bit more about that. If you are trans or an ally or a family member of a trans person, and on October 23rd, we're going to be lifting up those stories. So feel free to share your own, like a selfie or a tweet or your story, and use hashtag transform the polls, and make sure to tag in the ACLU of Indiana.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's amazing work. Thank you so much for sharing. And so I just wanted to send it over to Rima. I know that Women4Change also launched a major campaign around getting out the vote to reach 400,000 eligible voters in Indiana. Could you share with us a little more about that campaign? That is incredible, nearly 500,000 eligible voters.
Thank you. We're so excited. But first, I just wanted to say thank you to the ACLU of Indiana and Kit for the Transform the Polls campaign. Kit, when you were talking right now, it honest to God really took my breath away, because I can understand right now, especially amidst this pandemic, the feeling of isolation that a lot of folks are probably having, and the fact that we're all working tirelessly and in our little bubbles, but sometimes it feels like we may be alone. So to have that sense of community while not being able to congregate is amazing. So thank you. I'm really excited about that, and I can't wait to. That's when I will be scrolling on Instagram religiously, unlike what I've said before today. So thank you.
Oh my God, thank you.
It was really, really important for Women4Change, for us, as a nonpartisan organization, to talk about some of the issues that we believe affect women here in Indiana. And so what we've done is we've created an interactive voter guide. It includes some statistics, key terms, data. It also shows how really each one of these issues affects women of color at a much higher rate. And so those are included, but there's also an interactive aspect to the guide. And you can really, with a click of a button, contact the candidates and ask them where they stand on a particular issue. By definition, your representatives should represent you and your community. And if they're not, you should have the chance to call the candidate's office and ask them. That is the power of the polls again. And so we have that guide. I really, really encourage you to visit that guide, share that far and wide, because it's got some terms in there, some information in there that may be useful. If the guide, if there's other additional information that you can't find on there, there are a variety of nonprofits here in Indiana. Find one that's important to you and aligns with you and the issues that you care about. In our campaign, again, we believe that when you engage a woman, she brings her entire family and community with her. And so those 400,000 Hoosiers are not just 400,000, but it's that group of people. We are targeting people that may not have voted during the last 5 to 10 elections, or people who really vote between, different candidates because of the issues that really matter to them. This issue is we're looking at it from an inclusive lens. A third of Marion County residents don't have internet access. And so to that, we're writing postcards, we're sending emails. Smartphones, while they're amazing, not everyone has a smartphone. And so we are texting folks, but we also recognize that privilege of having that smartphone. And we're not going to rely just on one means of communication. And so we're making phone calls. Not everybody has broadband or internet access. So we're mailing information, we're emailing information. And this is just led by an entirely amazing group of volunteers. And they're also talking about the issues and why they go to vote. And so we're really thankful. We're about 400 volunteers strong right now. Wow. And as of yesterday, we've reached a little over 88,000 voters, and we're looking just to continue. And that's thanks to the help of all of you, because nobody can do anything alone. But when you have amazing friends like I do at Indy Pride and ACLU, you're able to accomplish a lot together.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And how can people get involved if they want to support this initiative? Where can we go to find more information?
Yeah, I also failed to mention, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention, that we are also going through voter registration for returning voters. And that was really, really important to us, voters that have been disenfranchised. And that was very important to us as well, to reach these groups of people. If people are looking to get involved, we always need your help. Please visit our website at Women4Change Indiana.org. If you're looking for voting related information, please visit our website as well at Women4Change Indiana.org. We really need your help. Please look at our voter guide. Help us by sharing that voter guide as well. And we have a few more days left before early voter registration ends. Check your voter registration. After the voter registration deadlines, some counties will be opening early voting. Think of November 3rd as your deadline. That's the last day. Do not procrastinate. We all know Indiana weather is unpredictable. I know I hate the cold, unpopular opinion. I'm just going to let everybody know. You don't want to stand in line amidst a pandemic in the middle of flu season. If your schedule permits, if you are able to, please go and early vote. And you can only early vote if you check your voter registration. So I encourage you to do that. If you're looking to get involved, please visit our website. You can also sign up to volunteer.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. That's incredible. I want to uplift, because I heard from the two of you a few action items, a few ways that people can continue to engage. In both of your initiatives are around sort of the citizen activism, encouraging people to not only to register to vote, but to help and encourage other people to register to vote through the Women4Change's campaign to reach nearly 500,000 eligible voters in Indiana. And Kit, you shared the Transform the Polls, uplifting those stories, and of course, sharing those stories if you identify as trans in our community. And of course, I want to encourage everyone to, during the Transform the Polls Day, to share and uplift those stories. We want to make sure that we are reaching as many people as possible. So thank you both for the incredible work that you are doing. I want to welcome those who have joined in on our live stream. I'm talking with Rima at Women4Change and Kit at the ACLU Indiana. Welcome, welcome. So we have just a few moments left. How do you all feel about taking maybe one or two questions? We have some questions that came in.
I feel great. Real fast, I just wanted to call out Women4Change's voting guide, which I have used and is so complete. And I know that Tabitha put the link there in the comments. And it's so great to see people pursuing large goals to get a lot of people out. and to reach so many people, because I think that's what the times call for us to dream big.
Most
Thank you.
definitely. Most definitely. Wonderful. So I'm going to take a quick look at our comments here. Um, there's a really great question around. Um, I talked a little bit earlier about like having a voting plan, given that we're in a pandemic. We are going to check our voter registration. We're going to make sure that we're registered to vote. We're going to make sure that our friends are registered to vote. So someone asked a question about not being eligible for an absentee voting, but want to avoid the crowds on election day. Can you share some information about voting early? When does it start? Where do I go? Do you have to qualify to vote early?
Do you want me to take that?
Yeah, Kit, why don't you can start?
All right. So early voting starts on October 6th. And if you're avoiding crowds, it's a really good option. Voting, you'll need to check, in Indianapolis, I believe we have 6 early voting sites, which you can just go into throughout the day up to 6 p.m., I believe, and cast your vote. And during the days when it's not near the election and when it's not right at the day of the election, those sites are often fairly empty. They're often quite easy to get into, so you don't have to stand in line with a whole line of people for hours, as we often see during high stakes elections. We see in the news people just stand lines and lines of people. So I highly recommend taking advantage of an early voting site. In other counties, that site may simply be your courthouse. That's something that you can check with your county clerk of the courts. You can just, often it's right on the website of your county, your county government's website, that will tell you where your actual early voting location is. So yeah, the early voting is your best option if you're nervous about polls. And just to echo the great point that Rima made, vote early. Think of the November 3rd as a deadline. It's better for your health, and it's also maybe better for your mental health. While we're all very stressed out right now, we live in busy times. Voting early enables you to schedule around. So many of us, especially women, are struggling with busier schedules than we would normally have. So this is just an excellent option to sort of take that load off your shoulders. And also maybe to take the mental load off your shoulders of just knowing that you got that vote done. Like, you got it in the can, it's done. And so many of us feel like so much is hanging on this election. We might just feel a little bit emotionally better just to know that we've done our part and that we've pulled our lever. So that's my advice.
I couldn't agree more with that. I think Kit is spot on, like always, and I agree with what she's saying. I'd also say if you're living in central Indiana and looking for your early polling location, you can visit our website. We have a list of all the locations in central Indiana and the hours for voting early. I would also say visit a website because there's also some misconceptions on what you can and can't wear to the polls. So definitely don't want that to be a barrier. So definitely visit our website to find that polling location, find the hours, and then finally having the materials or not to be able to walk into that polling location is really important. I would also say in this time of being, kind of isolated, if you want to share your I voted selfie with your sticker, do that and encourage your friends to also vote early. Everybody likes to post that around election day. Why not do it early? Give your friends a little bit of FOMO by sharing that.
Yes, that citizen activism. Encourage your friends to vote early. Yes. Wonderful. Yes. Thank you both for sharing that information. We've come up on our time together. Thank you so much for, being with us today and sharing about knowing your rights as we come upon the general election. So please share with us, how can people continue to be connected with Women for Change in the ACLU Indiana? Rima, we'll start with you.
Again, please visit our website, women4changeindiana.org. Please sign up to volunteer if your schedule permits. If you don't have that flexibility in your schedule, I will say just continue to watch our website because we try to share information that may be useful to you. Please plug in with us on social media if you aren't on social media. We also have a YouTube series on Know Your Vote and understanding these different elected positions. And thank you for your engagement.
Wonderful, wonderful. Kit?
So I would recommend, if you want to stay connected to the ACLU, obviously you can check our website, aclu-in.org, and you can sign up to be a member even, or just simply to be on our email list. We're not big spammers. We really only send out alerts about things we would like you to take action on. So you'll get that from us, and that's a great way to sort of keep in touch with what we think is really important in the state. And of course, you can follow us on social media, ACLU of Indiana on Facebook, at ACLU Indiana on Twitter and on Instagram. We post a lot of content there as well, and that's a great way to keep in touch with events that we're doing around the state as well. Another thing that you can do if you want to increase your engagement that hasn't been mentioned here and is not specific to the ACLU, but I want folks to know about is it's a good time to consider volunteering to be a poll worker. Because of COVID, poll workers and volunteers in the past have skewed older. And unfortunately, older volunteers are more at risk for contracting COVID. So volunteering to work the polls could be an act of civic duty that you can do to sort of help ensure that our electoral process proceeds, in an orderly fashion. You can learn about that on the Yes You Can Vote website in the link that I'm sure Pride is going to share. In the comment thread here, there we have a link to every county in Indiana, along with instructions on how to contact the county clerks or a link to their website. Not all counties have the same process, but just sort of a quick one-stop shop where you can get to start figuring out how you could volunteer to be a poll worker.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you both for that information, Rima, Kit. Thank you so much for your partnership with Indy Pride, helping us to get out the vote, and most importantly, keep our community informed about their voting rights. I'd like to thank everyone who joined our live stream presentation today and those who are watching the replay. Please take a moment to go ahead and share this video. We want to make sure that all of our friends, our loved ones know that the October 5th voting registration deadline is coming up in the state of Indiana. As Rima said, how about October 3rd? Let's make sure the next couple of days, go ahead and get it in. Make sure that you've checked your voter registration. And so thank you so much for joining Indy Pride. Please continue to stay connected with Indy Pride on all social media platforms. All right. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.